How's everybody doing? Yeah, hanging in there? All right. I am a child of the 60s. You will need these later. I'm Glenn, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some work we do with glaciers and glacier change and how we look at meltwater and what that does and how that affects people. How many of y'all been stuck in traffic on I-40? You can thank a civil engineer. Okay. We do a lot of things, though. We do a lot of things in a lot of different areas, and it just so happens water resources, which is the area that I work in, is one of them. But we bounce around, and we really do feel that despite the fact most of us work for the government, we do a lot of good things. Now, why are these glaciers so darn important? Well, they're frozen reservoirs. So you think about that. You got this body of water that's frozen, and it's going away. And it's going away due to climate change. And what are you going to do without that? Because remember, the growing season in a lot of these places is only like 30, 60 days. What's the best way to study a glacier? Get really big, strong graduate students, okay? Because we have to go in about 23 miles, and they really do carry all the heavy stuff for us to get in there. What do we do when we get there? Well, we do ice measurements. You can see a couple of the students out there measuring the ice as far as the depth of the ice. Again, to try to do this over and over time to see if the glacier is going down or getting as far as the amount of ice loss that we're seeing. Another thing we like to do is we identify old photographs. And we take the old photographs and we compare new photographs. So again, finding points that are similar in those red circles so that we can actually see the amount of ice that has been lost based on just looking at simple photography and to see what's going on with regards to the glacier. Now, what do I call this? It's my hairline, okay? It's going back in time, okay? You see what the glacier looked like back, I was born in '62, so about that time. But this is using remote sense products, USGS aerials, Landsat, and we do pictures and look at the area change. What did we find? Well, I know this is a lot to look at, but it's all negative. All 44 glaciers were receding, about 35 to 40% from 1966 to 2006, about 40 or 41 years. And that's an example of one particular glacier that went down. Okay, get your glasses ready. Fun stuff. All right? What we do is we take two photos here, we mesh them together such that we can also look at the volume change of the glacier. And by, again, putting them together, we get this. Pretty cool. Can you see it? Okay. Okay, I know I'm a product of the 60s. You're not getting anything more than glacier glasses, okay? All right. So hopefully you'll see a ravine in there and you'll see the glaciers that we're measuring in there. And I know it may be a little difficult that far back. You can take them off now because this is the product that we produce. What we do is, again, we're simple civil engineers. We like to map things, and we work a lot with geographers and work across in a lot of different disciplines, isotope scientists, just all kinds of really neat, smart folks, much smarter than us in the science community. And that shows the glacier. The previous was 1983, and this shows it in 2001, where the blue area is the surface area of the glacier. And it shows how the glacier has receded over time. And again, we can measure that mass and determine how much water has been lost and how that's going to impact folks. The other thing you see here, and I know this is probably a lot to look at, most of the water flows in June, July, and August when the snow's melting. Well, that blue line is how it flows out of a glaciated watershed. That black line, how it flows out of a non-glaciated watershed. Look at the difference. Well, guess what? July and August is when the growing season is. What happens when those glaciers go away and you lose that? Why are they going away? Well, red line's temperature, blue line's snowpack. We've seen a tremendous rise in summer temperatures in this region of the country, as well, over the last 30, 40 years, a significant loss of snowpack. Now, if we want to go further back, what do? Well, we do this. This is a tree ring. It's a coring of a tree. What we like to do, again, we love to be interdisciplinary. We reach out and work with botanists, and we're able to go out and actually visit sites and core trees. And again, this is actually a site we just did as part of our research project out in New Mexico. It's one of our undergraduate students learning how to core a tree. Does not hurt a tree. It fits in a straw. You can kind of see right here is what it looks like right here as far as the coring of the tree after it's been processed and mounted. And we take that tree and we go back to a laboratory. And what we're able to do is, again, understand we're coring a lot of trees of the same species in the same area, which is all those little red lines, or excuse me, green lines, to produce that one representative tree ring chronology that we use in our work. And you may ask, well, what do we do? Well, what we're looking at, if we blow this up, is how wide are those rings? And do those ring widths match up well with some hydrologic variable like precipitation or stream flow or snowpack? And if we see a really, really good representation or agreement, we can do this. So look at 1900 to 2000. That may be all the instrumental record we have. But then look what we can do with tree rings. We can take stream flow and reconstruct it back to 1450. Why is that important? I'm a civil engineer, water managers and planners. We don't know about those big mega droughts. We need to plan for those as far as to provide water for either hydropower or other things. I'd like to thank my sponsors, obviously, but most of all, I told my 9-year-old daughter when she asked me what I do for a living, I say I exploit cheap labor. And I'd like to thank the graduate students that work. And last but not least, I'll get on my soapbox here for a moment and thank the men and women in uniform who are right now standing watch so that we can freely assemble like this and do great things like this. Thank you all so much for having me.